Hello, and welcome to this informational Empire Space video about the New York space finance sector. When many people think of New York and New York City, they will automatically think of Wall Street and trading floors and finance firms. The two concepts are pretty much inseparable. But many people may not be aware that New York is also a major national hub in the space finance sector. This video will explore some of the details about that sector, how it breaks down, the diversity of firms, the diversity of their focus, and how that sector can be better attuned to serve New York-specific space companies in the future. So an overview, some of the top line numbers. New York is number 2 in the U.S. with 18% of U.S. space investors behind California. We're first for private equity space financing with 39% of the U.S. total. We are second for venture capital investment with 18% of the U.S. total. And then we are also second for angel investors with 13% of the U.S. total. All this data is sourced from Bryce Tech, their Startup Space 2022 report. We encourage everyone to go check that out. Bryce Tech is absolutely fantastic. Empire Space saw these numbers, broke it down, identified the New York specific firms at play behind these numbers. We have identified 44 sources of space financing in New York with a high level of space involvement, with a total of $9.5 trillion in assets under management. When we expand that to the moderate space involvement category, we get to 118 sources with a total of $26.7 trillion in assets under management. So you can just see the size of this sector, just an incredible amount of capital at play. Regionally within the state, New York City is obviously the most active. No one's surprised by that. There are sources of financing elsewhere. Capital Region, Mid-Hudson, Western New York, and the Finger Lakes all have a part to play in the sector. So Empire Space breaks down the finance sector into two categories: business capital and then business services. Business capital is what most people would think of when they think of finance. Venture capital firms, investment banks, sources of hard cash, money, direct funding vehicles for companies to grow. You can see the breakdown in organization here. Empire Space has identified 34 financial firms and organizations in the business capital subset of the space finance sector with a high level of space focus. You can see the breakdown here. One economic development firm, corporate venture capital, 3 angel investors, a boutique investment bank, 10 large investment banks, a private equity firm, and 17 venture capital firms. You can see the dominance of venture capital here. It's a diverse array of organizations, all different types of play here, but venture capital really is leading the way. In terms of business focus, in terms of what part of the space sector these firms focus on, again, diversity of focus. A good third focus on that core space activities. Another third or so are focused on the technology or space adjacent fields. A third have kind of a general or a mixed diverse array of space, non-space, aerospace portfolio. Some core aerospace and defense and manufacturing focus there. So again, more diversity in the finance sector in terms of what part of the space economy they're focused on. In terms of business stage, these 34 companies do focus. They are focused on all different parts of the business cycle. Many are either early or late growth. So overall, brief summary of the business capital subsector. We have multiple types of financial organizations represented in the New York space finance ecosystem. Largest component being venture capital firms. All these firms are investing in a wide range of space sector companies, core space and technology firms being the largest areas of investment. These firms do invest at all stages of the cycle. Most are early or late growth. And it is important to note that all 34 of these firms are located in New York City, with all but one located in Manhattan itself. The other side of this is business services. So these are not direct funding vehicles, but they provide other resources, financial related resources for space companies. You can see the organization breakdown here before. So we're talking about, startup incubators, startup communities, consulting firms, financial services. We have identified 12 organizations with a high level of space focus in New York in the space finance sector. Again, more diversity in terms of organization type. Moving on to the business services, business focus. again, heavy focus on core space. There is focus on some of those technologies, some cybersecurity outside of that. But core space in terms of business services is the primary focus here in New York. Business stage, early growth and growth. So kind of the middle part of that business cycle being the primary focus for these business services firms. Unlike business capital, which is all concentrated in New York City, Manhattan specifically, these business services firms have a bit of geographic diversity behind them. New York City is dominant. You can see it there. 7 of them are located in the city. That is more than half. But you do have 2 located up in the capital region, Finger Lakes, Mohawk Valley, and the southern tier. So this is the part of the finance sector that does truly make it statewide. There is a little bit of this finance service-related work being done all throughout the state. So to summarize the business services subsector, similar levels of diversity in terms of type of organizations, financial services, startup incubators, and startup communities being the largest groups. These firms largely focus on support for core space firms. There are resources available for technology and cybersecurity fields. Predominant focus is in early growth and growth, so again, the middle part of that business cycle. There is, unlike with business capital, good regional diversity with these firms. It's good to see some representation outside of the greater New York City area. So moving forward to kind of tie this all together, the space finance sector is a unique powerhouse that is key to New York's future in space. No other state has a space finance sector at play as large as New York, except for some of the major players, California, Texas to some degree. So it's a New York specific asset. And there's a lot of play here. There's a lot of diversity at play here in terms of the type of organization, the type of groups that they're focused on. So it's important to find ways to tie this massive pool of resources with the New York specific components of the space ecosystem. Right now, most of this money leaves the state. So there's a lot of funding here in New York, but most of it is finance and growth in other parts of the country, in other parts of the space economy. So the goal of Empire Space moving forward is to not only better understand the finance sector, better understand these actors, what they're doing, their priorities moving forward, but how to better tie some of this activity to the New York specific space ecosystem. Morgan Stanley is one of the largest and most recognizable financial services and investment firms on Wall Street, and that is no different when it comes to space. They have long trumpeted the value and the importance of the space economy. In 2018, they held their first annual space summit where they brought together leading figures from government, industry, academia, and finance to discuss space, future trends in space. They continued this in 2019. COVID interrupted the series in 2020 and 2021. In 2022, they held their 3rd annual Space Summit series with over 20 leading figures. 5 key takeaways for investors that we did want to highlight. The intersection of space and climate change is only going to grow in importance moving forward. The increased level of capital formation in the space economy, the importance of mitigating orbital debris, space and security, and then telecoms as a near-term focus. The link is at the bottom of the page. We encourage everyone to go read, learn more about everything that Morgan Stanley has been saying. They've been a leader on the New York scene in space finance for a while. This series is one of the largest and most well-attended space events in the state. They are a critical player, not only in the global finance sector and in the national space finance sector, but in the New York space finance sector as well. The Empire Space Census is home to a database of every space finance company located in New York that we are aware of. So you come here to our data homepage, empirespace.org/data. At the top here, you have our census map, all the different parts of the space ecosystem that we track. Here at the bottom, underneath the private sector, you see it says finance sector. You see 3 little bubbles here, business services on the left, business capital on the right. out-of-state resources. We're not going to go into the out-of-state resources. We will just show you just briefly. This is other companies located outside of New York that have varying levels of space focus that may be applicable to New York-based companies, but they're not located here, so we're not going to focus on them in this video. And then you have the two sectors that we discussed earlier, business capital and business services. We're going to start here in business capital. Again, these are available from the drop-down, business capital, business services. So we're going to kick business capital. Then you have an introduction here, some discussion about details of the sector, regional breakdown, etc. And then you have the data tables right here. So we break it down into three. You have high space focus, moderate space focus, low space focus. And then it's listed out. Organization, their location, the type of organization, venture capital, angel investor, etc. The specific focus, are they space, core space, technology, a little more general focus, the business stage that they tend to focus in, their space involvement where applicable. We leave some notes. Social media links where applicable, legislative codes down here as always, some more general notes down there on the right. And this is available for all of them. These are interactive. You can click on them, take them to their homepage. Like all of our other tables, these are interactive. You can see here assets and university. We track that where applicable. These columns we hope to fill in over time. These databases are living constructions. We grow, we fill in more data all the time. So look for updates. If you don't see something there now, there's a chance that something will be there next time you look. So this is for business capital. These are the firms, venture capital firms, the sources of income, of financing for space companies. So this database is very accessible. We hope people can jump right in here. We do want to draw your attention to the Bryce report. This is where we source most of this information. Bryce Tech does absolutely fantastic work. Some of it right here in New York. We highly encourage everyone to go check out Bryce Tech. So that is the business capital table. We're going to hop back out here. Over here, business services. So these are the business services. These firms and organizations don't provide direct financing. They do provide other services, consulting, think business incubators, startup accelerators, things of that nature. Again, introductory information up here at the top, and then broken out by all three levels: high space focus, moderate space focus, low space focus. And again, same information tracked: organization, location, the type. Is it an incubator? Is it a consulting firm? What is their business focus? Are they general? Are they technology? Are they space? Stage, growth, early growth, space involvement. What notes do we have for that? University, if there's no links here, look for that in the future. We're looking to map those connections. Social media links, you can go follow these folks on Twitter. Legislative codes, as always, again, for all three code levels here. So that is the information available for business services. So that is the New York space finance sector mapped out right there. You can hop right in there from either of these two icons right here and learn more about the firms that are financing the American space ecosystem. New York is the second largest source of financing for the U.S. Space economy in all different fields, all different types of firms. New York is one of, if not the leader. We do want to draw your attention up here to the report section, the top one right now, Space Finance Powerhouse. This is a long form, more written detail about some of the stuff that was discussed in the video tonight, just about the sector, the roots of the sector, the scope of the sector, the regional breakdown of the sector. We go into some of that analysis here, more charts, analysis, things of that nature. So that's available right there in the report section. So that is the information available in the Empire Space Census and our reports that discuss the details of the New York space finance sector. It is truly one of the most unique assets that New York has when it comes to positioning itself to grow in the 21st century space economy. Most other states don't have a global space finance powerhouse located within their borders. The goal of Empire Space is to not only better understand this sector, its trends and its dynamics, but figure out how to increase the feedback loops from this sector domestically into the New York space economy, and find some positive reinforcing cycles of growth there. some final thoughts. The New York space finance sector is a powerhouse with well over 100 firms of all sizes and dispositions holding trillions of dollars in assets and an eye on space. As time goes on, more and more firms are investing in this sector. They realize the value, and it's happening here in New York. Morgan Stanley is a perfect example of this. They've been trumpeting the space sector for years. They're a key anchor in the New York space finance system. There's a diverse array of business capital firms providing the actual financing vehicles that are fueling the growth in the 21st century American space economy. Venture capital dominates the scene here in New York City. Business services firms are diverse in type and focus as well, with more of a focus on core space firms in the middle of their business cycle. They add some regional diversity to the New York space finance ecosystem. As of right now, our understanding is most of this money leaves the state. We need to ID new feedback loops into New York space startups and existing companies. That's one of the key focuses here at Empire Space. We're working to fill out the superlatives for all the firms we've identified in our data tables, better map the money flows, where exactly investment is occurring, and better understand the connections or lack thereof to New York. So we hope you have found this video informative. We thank you for joining us. Please dig in, learn more, explore these databases, explore these reports, learn about how the space finance sector is changing the landscape for the American space age that we are all living in right now, and how the money behind this exciting new space age is coming from New York.
Hello there, Patrick Chase here, co-founder of Empire Space. I want to thank you for watching this video. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at EmpireSpaceNY. Reach out to us at info@empirespace.org with questions, comments, or suggestions. Again, please like and share the video. Tell your friends about it. Leave any thoughts in the comment section below. And again, thank you for joining us. Be safe. Have a great day.